is there any more archive audio of John to work on for another release that you know of?
Not that I know of. In fact, it wasn't until Paul called me up that I was aware of Now and Then, and he started working on it. So I don't think so. You'd have to ask Sean.
He's not here.
In fact, he is here.
My last words to our guests, just before I switch microphones on, were let's get nerdy, which sounds like an awful pickup line. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, Mr. Giles Martin.
Yay.
Good morning, Chris and Dom. Let's get nerdy.
Let's get nerdy. Let's do it, Giles.
Can we get nerdy?
We can get, I'm in the mood for nerd.
Oh, nerd.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So, Giles is back with us to talk Anthology 4, which is the new Beatles album, which is out Friday, the 21st of November. And talk to me about day one of getting to the release date. How long are we talking here? For you, obviously, not the Beatles, clearly. I'm aware of that timeline.
You know, it's... I've been through all the Beatles material, and the Beatles decided they want to re-release the Anthology TV series. I don't know what you say. We get old, you start saying programs, but they say, it's not a box set anymore, is it?
Yeah. I've got that box set. It's brilliant.
So Peter Jackson, who is now the collaborator we work with, we did the Get Back with. He's reworked, I suppose, the anthology to made it look good. I've remixed the entire series, so it sounds amazing. And then they wanted me to dig deeper into the unheard material. So I guess it took about a year and a bit to do the whole thing.
And are these where are these? Are there just? Is there a room with piles of tape? Basically,
there's a vault with piles of tape. Yeah,
right.
There's a vault that has with the goblins outside it, with piles and piles of tape. Where they have been organised. It's amazing. A lot of bands in the 80s and 90s. I was in a band in the 90s, and all of our tapes don't work. But the Beatles recorded us on EMI tape, which is it turns out to be one of the best storage mediums there is. I mean, I'm not sure if you'd be able to find a laptop from 10 years ago to work, but the Beatles managed to record on tapes, and it sounds fantastic.
Because a lot of the like the reel tape, as in reel-to-reel tapes that people have used and industry have used, television, radio, recording studios. Little did they know then, but over time the tape erodes.
That's right. All of the oxide comes off and stuff like that. You have to bake them, but I've never baked a Beatles tape. And I was surprised. So when I was about 22, I left college, and I was working with my dad, Locks. He'd lost his hearing, and he was asked to work on Anthology. I came into Abbey Road, and they played A Day in the Life from the original 4-track. And it just sounded amazing. It doesn't sound old. We get old, but the music sounds young. And I was surprised at, I expected it to sound hissy but it turns out actually it's a really good way of storing music, And
then I guess it's been somebody's or some people's jobs over the years to transfer all these physical tapes of recordings to digital, so that now we've got them forever, and there is no chance that those tapes will erode. I mean, it's a hell of a job, because it's, for me, what's interesting is if you look back at TV in the early days of British TV, there are shows that don't exist anymore because tape was very, very, very expensive. So they would record, let's say, early Morecambe and Wise. They'd record a show with Morecambe and Wise on, and then give it a couple of years later, they'd have to re-record over the tape because tape was so expensive. So there's TV shows that are just lost in the archives because there are no archives of it. But with the Beatles stuff, it always fascinates me that it feels like they just hit record and recorded everything, but that can't have been the case because tape would have still been expensive.
Yeah, they didn't. They just recorded a lot. I think that's the thing. So that, I mean, I remember like going through trying to find, because people ask me and fans want, other versions, say Paperback Writer.
Yeah.
Now, Paperback Writer, there's 1.5 versions of it. They played it, and then they stopped halfway through, and then they played the whole song again. That's the record you know. And they must have rehearsed it before. They must have, it wouldn't be the first time they played it. So they did, and there's cut off. I think there's on this Anthology 4, there's a really lovely version of Julia, where it's from the White Album, where John's trying to work out how he plays it. My dad's talking to him, and he's playing sitting down, standing up. But then the tape just cuts out, because they always think, why are we recording? There's no point recording this conversation. Of course, we want to hear the conversations now.
Exactly,
yeah. So they just recorded a lot. The thing about the Beatles, they were so successful early on that they decided to keep the tapes. For whatever reason, where most bands they didn't. But like Love Me Do, for instance, their first single, or She Loves You, there's no version. If to take Love Me Do, it's just the vinyl exists. There's no tape.
But then, and then at what point, what era are we talking when somebody went, let's start?
Pretty much soon. I mean, the first album, which was recorded, famously in a day, there's no multi-track versions because they're just playing live in the studio.
Yeah.
So, Paul's playing bass and singing, I saw her standing there, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's one tape. Because that's it, because that's the album.
Incredible.
Because it limits it in a good way and bad way, I'm sure, but it limits your work then, all the years later, when you are going to remix, I don't know if it's the right word, remaster stuff. You've got little to work with apart from what you got, if that makes sense. Well,
no, but that used to be the case, but we developed this thing called Mal. I've named after Mal Evans, where you can actually go, we developed this, God bless AI, and it's good and bad. You can actually dig in. So, for instance, for the Anthology TV series, I went to Shea Stadium or Washington concert, and I can now, using machine learning, isolate John's voice or isolate the drums and bring the drums out. We did that in Get Back, because what happened with Get Back is that I was working, it was my lockdown project with Peter Jackson, where I was in England, he was in New Zealand. And he had a dialogue editor using police forensic surveillance techniques to remove guitars from voices. And I went, oh, wait a second, if we can do that, can I take drums and bass off? And we started working on this project, and that's how we mixed Revolver, because you can now have... So the early stuff, I mean, Washington concert, you can't hear the drums at all, and now you can hear the drums. But I'm not adding anything to it. I'm not like, recreating anything.
Yeah.
It's like finding something underground. It's like detectorists for audio people.
But Shea Stadium as well, they couldn't hear themselves, could they?
Well, that's the weird thing. When I can isolate with the voice, I'm thinking I can hear John now, and I can see him on screen singing, and there's his voice coming out on his own. I'm thinking, he's never even heard this.
No.
And he was there.
Yeah, because all they're hearing is a screen, because it's a little PA, it's those little PA loudspeakers.
Yeah, Shea Stadium was just using the little horn PAs.
Yeah, it's mad.
Have you discovered anything when you've gone through the isolation of the tracks that's blown your mind, or you'd not noticed before, or?
No, you kind of notice how it's quite often, especially the amazing thing about the Beatles is how good they were live, and people don't see them as live bands. They stopped playing. But then there's the famous rooftop concert, and what people don't realise about that is like things like there's a couple of tracks on the rooftop concert which are the singles. They are that is their recording venue, is the rooftop in Savile Row, because they sang in tune, they played in time. And there's something about, I was listening to In My Life, the first take of My Life on this, and I just thought it's so nice just to capture that 3.5 minutes of a band going in a room, where now you have teams of songwriters around the world working on one track in some sort of formula. This is just someone's voice and a band playing, and it's the counterculture to the generative thing we have now.
Did the Beatles ever layer recordings, as in, the version we would know is somebody would go in, the drummer would lay down the drums, and then the rhythm would come in, and then they would add and build, and the vocalist might not come in, so maybe even the next day. Did they ever record like that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's when it's a bit like my dad. When he started working in Abbey Road in 1950, the plan was to record something so it sounded the same as a performance. And they got there really quickly. The recording got there really quickly. So then it became like Instagram filters to use. It became like, how do we paint sound with pictures? How do we distort it? So A Day in the Life, for example, if you listen to A Day in the Life, you'll hear John's voice, acoustic guitar, piano, maracas, and bongos, and that's the 4 Beatles playing. And then they recorded the bass and drums on top of that. So quite often they recorded in reverse. Lady Madonna's piano and brushes, and then Ringo and Paul played drums on top of that. But never with click track, no sort of, it was just purely their feel.
See, that's bizarre to me as clearly not a musician, that on Lady Madonna, you would go, well, the drums have to go first because we need to keep it in time. So the best person to do that, I think, would be Ringo. But then to do the piano first, and then Ringo has to then play the drums over the top, seems to me the wrong way around.
Well, everything has to have its own feel and be in time. That's what people think. It's a great band is the sum of its parts. And so, think about Lady Madonna. The thing you think about Lady Madonna is the piano, right? So the piano is the thing. So piano and brushes. There's a little Ringo's playing. He's playing with Paul, and then that's the most important thing. So let's put that down first and put the drums on afterwards.
It's the drums and the bass on that for me.
Yeah, there you are. You'd have done it differently.
Well, no,
they had no idea what they were doing. That's the tricky thing.
What was your dad thinking of?
Yeah.
What was he thinking?
I worked at a radio station once, and the desk was so old that you could mono the left or the right channel, and I hit the button accidentally on Lady Madonna, and then just got drums, bass, and vocals, and it's incredible. Just like the Lady Madonna is that it's the piano, as you say, but take that out and then just have everything else. It's a totally different track.
Yeah,
and you put a dance beat on there and some keys and everything, and you've got some tricky dance track.
Proper track.
But then the other thing that was lovely about how long have we got, Giles, for?
Like 3 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Could get bored into 1.5 do that.
Can't you just stay all day?
Yeah, I can. I'd love to be with you guys all day.
Yeah. Is there a track on Anthology 4 that was technically difficult for you to work on?
No, not really. No, I mean, to be honest, I mean, there were tracks that on the TV were hard to on the series which are hard to work on. With the Anthology album, what I try and do is represent what I'm hearing in the studios, because I just think, you've heard the record, so if I press play on tape, there's a couple of tidying up, but not really that much. I'm trying to give you an idea what it's like for me to find the tapes. Because it is demos essentially.
Yeah.
But when it came to doing the series, that was much harder, because things like Shea Stadium are removing crowd, and technically that's a really hard thing to do.
Yeah.
And also, it has to match. It's not a question of making it ever sound like Steely Dan. It's a question of making it sound like you're there. That's always the thing.
With all the work that you've done with the Beatles, obviously, you grew up around them. Your father was, so involved and so important to the Beatles. Now you've taken on that mantle. Anthology 4. This is incredible. From what I've heard, the work is incredible. What is your honest opinion of Paul McCartney and the Frog Chorus?
Well, it's a seminal track, and he had the other 3, it'd have probably been a little bit better, but with some harmonies. But actually, you know what? It's part of my youth, because I remember my dad doing it.
I got on 7-inch vinyl. I blooming loved it.
And the video was
groundbreaking.
It was.
It's amazing with Paul. And I spend quite a bit of time with him. He'll say to me, it's really odd that, out of this little, quite a small frame come all these songs, he said to me, because he's written so much.
Yeah.
And I worked on this recent, a Wings collection for him and all this sort of stuff, and you just go, it's incredible how much he's done. But he loves it.
Yeah.
He loves writing, and it doesn't matter whether it's the Frog Chorus or Helter Skelter, or his range is just bizarre.
Yeah.
And I just think
he's an incredible songwriter. It is great that they all found each other, because in another universe they would have never met each other.
That's what they say in this anthology, and George says, which is quite poignant, because George is obviously gone for a long time now. But on the program, he's there, and he says, the Beatles just go on. It's no longer us. It's no longer them making it. It just lives. And that's the thing. It's like, I always ask the question, I do sort of lots of other things, but people just want to know when the Rubber Soul's coming out, or when that's what they want to know, because it's almost like it's just part of the structure of life for lots of people. And it's it doesn't do any harm.
My friend Rob is a massive Beatles fan, and he wants to know, said he could ask a question, and his question is, after the release of Now and Then in 2023, is there any more archive audio of John to work on for another release that you know of?
Not that I know of. It wasn't until Paul called me up that I was aware of Now and Then, and he started working on it. So I don't think so. You'd have to ask Sean.
He's not here.
In fact, he is here.
It's a great album, and we were talking about In My Life earlier. There's take one of In My Life, which is it's fascinating because it's different to the In My Life that we know and love.
I just love hearing them having a chat. I really do. Before they then kick in.
It's worth all the work for.
I'll just have cheese and lettuce and Marmite sandwich and coffee.
There you go. That's worth it alone.
Just an order.
It really is.
It'd be great to phone up a company and just have that voice, wouldn't it?
We could do that today. Hello.
Marmite sandwich.
There you go. Lovely. Anthology 4 from the Beatles is out this Friday, the 21st of November, which Giles has painstakingly been working on for your entertainment. Lovely to see you. Thank you very much.
Lovely to see you.
Thanks.
Come back anytime. If you have a passing, and I'll come up with even more nerdy questions.
I love the nerdy. Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Giles Martin.
Radio X.